Yo, what's up and welcome back. After the Liverpool versus Arsenal game, I think Liverpool's third loss in the league. We've lost more points in the last 6 games than Liverpool have in the 38 games before that. I've bumped into a wild Arsenal fan over here who wants to give some of his opinions on the game yesterday. So firstly, just open-ended question, what do you think of the game?
Well, thank you, Safe, for the introduction. I think as an Arsenal fan, it's been a very tricky season throughout. We've had a change of manager, of course. Initially, after lockdown, we had a good start. We went to Wolves away, we won. We went to Southampton away, we won. Our record away wasn't too great, and that's been a theme throughout the season. And we had 2 very difficult results, one against Tottenham, which was really painful, and one against Leicester, which we should have won but conceded right at the death, right? So for us, more than anything, it was a great result to beat the champions, but also to build momentum ahead of our important FA Cup final game, FA Cup semi-final game, on Saturday against Man City. And that's our last hope for the season, just because we're not doing too well in the Premier League, and the FA Cup is a souvenir that we can possibly take from a very difficult season that we've had.
Okay, well, thank you for that articulate introduction. He's given us the full history of Arsenal. So more about the actual game itself. How did you feel coming up to the game? Obviously, you were facing a Liverpool team that has not been in full momentum after the start-up since coronavirus and everything. How did you feel as coming into that game? Like, what was Arsenal's form like? And did you genuinely, before the game, think that you had a chance to beat us?
So, in all honesty, no, I didn't. I thought we'd struggle. Obviously, Liverpool are a fantastic team. You guys blew the league, completely deserved it. And I think one thing the game showed more than anything is just the massive divide between our 2 teams. You guys, Champions League winners, Premier League winners, comfortably both, and we're really struggling, and we have been for a couple of years. Yeah, something like that. I think we're like 8th or 9th at the moment. And so we're making a very last-ditch attempt into the Europa League, and that should just show you, right, the difference in quality between the 2 teams. So in respect, going into the game, I wasn't too confident. I didn't think we'd pick anything up from it, but I'll take the win. It's a massive win, and like I said, it gives us momentum going into Saturday.
Well, I have to say, I do admire the honesty there. All right, so speaking about some more crucial points in the game, before the game, the lineups came out. I wasn't expecting the lineups to be the way they were. We started with OxladeChamberlain, an old Arsenal player. I was hoping Naby Keita would start because he's been doing really well since the start. One of the few players that has been performing better after the whole coronavirus incident than before. But with Oxlade in the starting lineup, I'll be honest, it shook me up a little bit, but I could see what Jurgen Klopp was going for. Yeah. OxladeChamberlain is a very direct player, and I think you being an Arsenal fan will know that. He loves to go straight for goal, and Liverpool have always succeeded on the high press against Arsenal, but this game just seemed a little bit different. What did you think of the starting lineup and everything?
So I think firstly it was great to see the Ox back at the Emirates. Some would say his career's regressed since he left.
Wait. Can I just point out, regressed? The guy has returned to the Emirates as a Premier League winner, a Super Cup winner, a Club World Cup winner, and Champions League winner. So regressed. I don't.
No. Granted, his accolades have definitely improved since he left. However, he had more of a first-team role, in my opinion, at Arsenal. As in, he doesn't necessarily get into your first team at the moment. You've got a brilliant midfield in Wijnaldum, Firmino, and Henderson, right? Whereas at Arsenal, even though he didn't have like a set position, he was playing right wing back, centre mid, right wing, left wing. He was still playing more frequently than he is at the moment. In terms of the starting lineup, one look at Liverpool's team and you're already sweating because you guys are obviously Premier League winners. In terms of our team, I think Arteta chose a team with Saturday in mind. So he did rest 4 or 5 players. Aubameyang, our captain, our top goal scorer, probably most our important player, didn't start. He also rested Ceballos, who's had quite a few good games recently. So I think we had one eye on Saturday, and off the back of that, to actually pull off a victory, having rested maybe 3 or 4 important players, is quite a big achievement for us.
I mean, now that you have said it, Aubameyang was a bit of a surprise for me. I did think he was going to start, and I thought this was a massive opportunity for Arteta to showcase what he has at Arsenal and what he's preparing for next season. And to be honest, you walked away with the win, but I would have liked to see Aubameyang start the game, just obviously see what he would perform like against Liverpool from the start. But let's start with Mane's goal, I mean, Liverpool did start very offensively in that game. And it reminded me of the time where we scored, I think, 3 or 4 goals in the first 20 minutes against you. Although we were not crucial at all. We weren't turning our chances into goals and stuff like that. But how did you feel when Mane's goal went in?
So you mentioned that game in 2014 when you blew us open in the first 10-15 minutes. I'm still haunted by that. Honestly, it still gives me such bad memories. I honestly thought when Mane scored within the first 15 or 20 minutes, the floodgates would open. You guys completely had possession. You guys were pressing us high. We really, for the first 30 or 40 minutes until the mistakes came about, which we'll speak about in a second, we couldn't get out of our own half. Right, you pinned us back and you showed just how much of a good pressing team that you are, and you're renowned for doing it. Your manager's renowned for doing it, and you're probably the best at Europe at it. And so because of that, because of our changes, because our momentum isn't quite there at the moment, we really struggled to get out of the blocks. And so when Mane scored, it was a really good goal. Robertson on the overlap, crossed it in for Mane. It just showed how well synced your team is, which you couldn't really say for us because throughout the game we only had 3 shots. Granted, we took 2 of them, but the difference and the divide in terms of output and chance creation is just there to see based on the stats and the game.
So, I mean, yeah, you're completely right with what you said. I thought the same thing. I thought floodgates are going to open. We're going to be 3-0 up by half-time, 20 minutes, quite early in the game to get a goal, especially considering the fact that Arsenal looked like they were holding on for dear life. And finally, Robertson looks like he's finally off the booze since we've won. It's the first time I've seen him play decent. But everything changed a little bit with a small mistake. And Arsenal, and I have to say, Arteta has a pair of balls on him to try what he did. The only team that I can think of that has tried pressing against Liverpool, who are like the masters of the press and high pressure football, is Man City, and they literally crumbled. Well, not the most recent game, but they came to Anfield, they tried to press us, and I watched them fall apart, and Liverpool absolutely outplayed them. I can't say the same for the game at Man City, but that's not relevant right now. But I have to say, Arteta has a massive pair of balls in him to actually try, especially after going 1 goal down, to actually try press onto Liverpool. But what do you think of the mistakes? Do you think that you were lucky in the sense that the mistakes just resulted in your goals, or was there a bit more work to do? And do you think Arsenal achieved a goal as opposed to just given a goal?
So I think that's a fair point. We did try to press. How much success we had is debatable. I think an interesting thing to take out of the game was the tactics that Arteta employed. And so when we had possession, it was more of a 4 at the back with wingers and a centre forward. When we didn't, it was more of a 5 at the back. And so when dealing with your press, we often had a 5-man defence. And what he employed was he had Reece Nelson and Pepe, left wing and right wing, as really wide forwards. And he had Lacazette, who's traditionally a centre forward, who dropped in to almost like a number 8 sort of role. And what that did was he tried to get an extra man into midfield and keep the 2 wingers really high. In the off chance that we gained possession of the ball and so that we could hit you on the counter attack. And there were many instances in the first 10 or 15 minutes where David Luiz or Rob Holding actually got the ball and they tried to play long balls over to catch your high line. It didn't really work initially, and I think you guys obviously gifted us the goals. With regards to Van Dijk, look, he's the best defender in the world, right? And it was very unprecedented to see him actually giving us anything. So that's welcomed and we'll take it. And secondly, also the Alisson one. I think people, are criticising the pass and whatnot. I think in terms of our perspective, it was really good anticipation from Lacazette. He got the ball, he then crossed it into Nelson. I think it was a neat finish. He took it with his left foot, and Fabinho was bearing down on him, and he was under a bit of pressure, but it was a neat finish.
Okay, I mean that's fair enough. So despite obviously the mistakes and in fact just forgetting the scoreline, how do you think Arsenal played that game? Obviously they walked away as winners.
Yeah.
Do you think it's fair to say that Liverpool dominated the game and Arsenal walked away as the victors, or do you think Arsenal actually had a much stronger part to play?
So like I said at the beginning, I think this game more than anything, even though we won and I'm over the moon with the result, it's really important for us. It really exemplifies how big the divide is between the 2 teams. You came to our stadium and you played us off the park. Now, if that game was to be played 100 times, you would win it 95 times. We were very fortunate. I think we really got away with that. Having said that though, we played like a small team against a big team. You know, we couldn't play you guys toe to toe because we just aren't good enough. You know, we're a lot poorer of a side than you are, and so because of that, Arteta had to employ, you know, much reserve tactics. He had to be disciplined. We had to show commitment. We had to get men behind the ball, and I think overall we did that. We did limit you guys to some chances. I know you guys had 23, but a lot of them were just being fired like all over the place. There were a couple. Salah just chipped, which Martin has tipped over the bar. And I think there were a couple for Minamino. And there was that one right at the end when Alexander-Arnold took a shot which took a deflection, and Martinez somehow got a save to that. So I think despite your domination, it was a really good save. Despite your domination, despite your possession, despite how superior you guys looked in terms of chances created, I didn't really have my heart in my mouth too much. In terms of chances, it was a fairly even game, but you guys, possession-wise and the way you pressed us, just showed how superior you are.
Fair enough. I do like the honesty. Most Arsenal fans seem to be a bit... It's the ones on Twitter that make you guys look bad. You could probably say the same for Liverpool fans. So, I mean, what do you think of Mikael Arteta? Because I have to say, from you guys have gone through what Liverpool went through after, I don't know who, but since Rafa Benitez, to be honest. Yeah. We've gone through manager after manager until we've landed with Jurgen Klopp. Yeah. And honestly, to me, obviously right now, he's the greatest manager in the world. Like, I love my mum and dad, but Jurgen Klopp is up there with them. I've never met the guy, but he's up there with them. And Mikael Arteta seems to get a lot more respect from the team than Unai Emery did. Yeah. But what do you think the future is for Arsenal? Do you think you guys are going to have a chance in getting into Europe? And do you think he's the one for your club?
So I think even the harshest Arsenal fans would say they've been fairly impressed with Arteta. I certainly have. I think what he's brought to the team is structure, discipline, and the players really respect him. And he was a wild card sort of shout just because he hasn't had any experience of managing. But so far since he's taken over, it's been 6 months. Granted, we've had 3 months of lockdown, but the results we've picked up and the way we're starting to develop as a team defensively is really, really impressive. Just because before Arteta we had Emery and we were conceding shots left, right and centre. Our defensive record was appalling. Arteta's really developed us into a much harder team to beat, and it showed against you guys yesterday. It was a lot more difficult to get through our defensive line because he's making us more compact, and even in possession we're trying to play out from the back. And with Emery that just didn't work. So I'm really impressed with Arteta. I think we've got a big future under him, but I think the fans and the club need to give him time. They need to give him money, and they need to really back him. And in terms of Europe, I think we're targeting Europa League this year. Whether we get it or not with 2 games to go, who knows? But in the years to come, I think if we have a good summer this year, we buy a centre mid, a centre back, and maybe a wing or two, we can possibly push for Champions League next year at the very most, I'd say.
And one more thing about Arsenal's situation at the moment, and Arsenal have always been part of the big four, or the big six. You've got Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, and to be honest, it's a bit of a wish-washy one because you could say Man City, Tottenham, I don't know who. But would you say Arsenal, despite having a few struggles in the last few seasons since Arsene Wenger's gone, do you still consider yourself one of the big clubs?
I think we're a big club just purely on the base of how many trophies we've won. We're the 3rd highest team in terms of trophies in the country. I don't know what's going on over there.
United fans, what can you do?
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of trophies, our history, our culture, I think we're definitely up there. Obviously, we haven't won the league in coming to 20 years. We've never won the Champions League either. So we do have a long way to go to really catch up to United and Liverpool. But if I was to compare us to like Chelsea, Spurs and City, the newcomers, if you like, I definitely think we've got the tradition and the history to really like push us higher than what our current quality almost shows that we're at. So yeah, I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan. I still think we're a big team. In my opinion, we're the biggest team in the world. We've got a massive following. We've got a great stadium, and hopefully we've got a good manager. And we're going to build from that and really build a winning, successful, sustainable team.
Okay. No, I completely appreciate that. I mean, for me, Arsenal is still a big club, but to say one of the biggest in the world, I mean, a bit of a rash comment, but I mean, 90,000 fans went to Madrid to watch Liverpool, so, you know. But no, speaking about the newcomers, teams like Tottenham, teams like Man City, and potentially Newcastle next season, who have been bought out by a goddamn owner of a country, it literally brings me to one question, and that's the financial fair play rule and Man City's overturning of their ban in Champions League. What do you think of that?
So, of course, I think from a team outside of the top four, I'd have liked to see the ban upheld, just to give an opportunity for us and possibly the teams just above us to try and get that fifth spot. With regards to the ruling, I think I want to reserve some judgment on that, just because they've taken it to court and the court has showed that there hasn't been any transgression almost. And so, I mean, obviously, none of us like the model in which City have operated in the last 10 years. They've bought their success, they've bought the best players, and it's really diluted the quality for the rest of the Premier League. So you've got the big two right now, and then you've got a massive gap between them and then the Chelseas, the Uniteds, the Spurs, the us, and then you've got a massive gap between us and then the rest of the teams in the league. However, having said that, I'm not too fond of financial fair play. I think, you know, if UEFA don't really have any credibility anymore, every time they've tried to hit a team with a fine or a ban, it's always been amended some sort. And I think it's as much to stop another big team coming into like the top teams in Europe as it is to actually control the finances of the teams. I think we have a class, and we're going to try to uphold financial fair play to stop a team like Man City, like Chelsea, now coming up through the ranks and joining this elite level of clubs that we have, the 10 or 15 clubs that we've got at the moment. So I think, there's pros and cons of every system. However, this hasn't been implemented properly. And I think we can see that because they've slapped City with a ban for 2 years and the courts have just gone, we're not having any of it. So I'm not sure where UEFA go from this. I think they've got to have a long, hard look at themselves.
Definitely. And I mean, I have to agree with you again. I'm not sure if it's because of how articulate you are when you talk, but that brings me on to my final question. And you supporting a team like Arsenal, a lot of people would refer to the Emirates as a library. Yeah. And me going to a lot of Liverpool games throughout my whole life, I've seen Liverpool changing slowly as a club, losing a little bit of their culture, becoming more about money, more about finance, looking after corporates. And I've been to Old Trafford and it's probably worse than the Emirates. Yeah. And that's not attacking United fans, that's just the honesty. Do you think football is losing, like English football is losing its culture, especially in the big teams?
I mean, I try to go to the Emirates every week for the home games, and I've been to most stadiums in terms of away games. I don't necessarily agree. I think even now, more so because of COVID, the moment football returns, we're going to have an influx of supporters wishing and rushing to get back into the stadiums and cheer their teams on, just because this whole period has shown how important fans are. In terms of has the culture changed, I think there has been a commercialization of football. There's a lot of money in broadcasting, and so much revenue goes into that side of the game. I'd like to hope that that money then finds its way back to the fans. How that happens, I'm not too sure. But in terms of you and I and the casual fan that watches on TV or tries to go to the games, I think that atmosphere, that love for the game, that passion that we have is probably as strong as it ever has been before. And I hope that things like financial fair play and any other things that get in the way, such as COVID, don't really get in the way of that.
Well, that was great. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a YouTube channel, but if you type in the Asian Perez on AFTV, I'm sure he comes up. He used to have like this long hair and everything before. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want me to do more videos like this, speaking to fans, I think it would have been good if I spoke to you before the game to see what your actual views would have been. Or maybe if we watched the game together, that could have been interesting. I probably would have stormed off. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video anyways. Make sure you guys like, subscribe and drop a comment down below. With that said, I'll see you guys later.
Thanks.
Goodbye.